Good afternoon, dear students. Last class we learned that is about the administrative systems under the Khaljas and Tughlaqs. So afterwards we came to know that the Mongols under the Genghis Khan was invaded Transoxiana in the northeast Iran in 1219, and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after. Mongol attacks on the Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khilji and in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's rule. See, this forced the two rulers to mobilize a large standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge for those. Now, let us discuss about how these two rulers, especially Alauddin Khalji and then Muhammad bin Tughlaq, so they were dealt with this. So that's we are. So first we will see that Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad. Tughlaq. So during these two kings period only, so the Mongols they were attacked. Let us see this. How these two rulers, so they were faced this challenge, especially to mobilize a large standing army in Delhi. See, Delhi was attacked twice in 1299 and 1300. So during Alauddin Khilji period, 1299 and 1300. So once and again 1302 and 1303. So they were attacked. They were the Mongols. They were attacked twice in 1299 and 1300 and 1302 to 1303. See, as a defensive measure, Alauddin Khilji raised a large standing army. Getting now? So, as a defensive measure, Alauddin Khilji raised a large standing army because of these when the Mongols they were attacked twice in these different periods. And what about during Muhammad Tughlaq? See, the Sultanate was attacked in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's reign. Attacks of, especially, they were attacked in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's reign. The Mongol army was defeated. Muhammad Tughlaq was confident about the strength of his army and his resources to plan an attack on the Transylvania. He therefore raised a large standing. So both they were. So he was actually confident. Muhammad Tughlaq he was confident about the strength of his army and also his resources to plan an attack. Understood? Then again, in the Alauddin Khilji constructed a new garrison town named Siri for his soldiers. So actually, Alauddin Khilji he was constructed a new garrison town, the name Siri for his soldiers. For his soldiers. What about Muhammad bin Tughlaq? So rather than constructing a new garrison town, see that. So instead of constructing a new garrison town, the oldest of the four cities of Delhi, the oldest of the four cities of Delhi, Delhi High Kuhna, Delhi High Kuhna. So that was emptied of its residents, and the soldiers garrisoned there. Now, what happened? No, the oldest of the four world cities in Delhi, Delhi High Kuhna. So that was emptied of its residents. ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಖಾಲಿ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೋಲ್ಜರನ್ನ ಕಳಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. The residents of the old city were sent to the new capital. What happened? No, the resident, those who are settled in Delhi, Pune, Delhi, Pune. So those residents, so they were shifted. They were sent to the new capital of Daulatabad in south. It's called as Devagiri. Daulatabad government ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. So here Alauddin Khilji, he was constructed a new garrison town named Siri, but here Muhammad Tughlaq, so instead of constructing a new garrison town, so he was actually shifted. Those who are settled in the four cities of Delhi, Delhi, Kuhna. So those residents, so they were sent to the new capital of Daulatabad in southern part. And let us see that Alauddin Khilji's step. So here the soldiers had to be fed. The soldiers had to be fed. So this was done through the produce collected as a tax from lands between the Ganga and Amina. So tax was fixed at 50% of the peasants' pay. So whatever the peasants, so they produce the 50% of the produce, so they needs to be paid as a tax, especially those were settled between the Ganga and Amina river. What about the Muhammad Tughlaq step about this? So here, produce from the same area was collected as a tax to feed the army. To feed the army. But to meet the expenses of maintaining such a large number of soldiers, the Sultan levied additional tax. So this coincided with the famine in the area. So what happened? So even including the same tax, so he was put more additional taxes. This is what how Muhammad Tughlaq taken steps. Now let us see the next step by Alauddin Khilji. The soldiers had to be paid. The soldiers had to be paid. Alauddin chose to pay his soldiers' salaries in cash rather than iktas. Iktas means land. So actually they were paid their salaries in cash rather than ikta. So the soldiers would buy their supplies from merchants in Delhi, and it was thus feared that merchants would raise their prices. It is a very common because here actually they were received their salary in the form of cash rather than iktas. So the soldiers would buy their supplies from the merchants of Delhi, and it was thus feared that merchants would raise their prices. Suppose if they are going to raise their prices, see, to stop this, Alauddin controlled the prices of goods in Delhi. So that's what happened. Alauddin Khilji, so he was controlled the price of goods in Delhi, and prices were carefully surveyed by officers, and merchants who did not sell at the prescribed rates were punished. So actually for this It was conducted survey also by the officers, and suppose even the merchants who did not sell at the prescribed rates, so they were punished also. Like that action, so taken by the Alauddin Khilji. Now let us discuss. See that how Muhammad Tughlaq. Muhammad Tughlaq also paid his soldiers cash salaries. Cash salaries. Even he was also practiced the same to pay their salary in the cash form, but instead of controlling prices, he used a token currency. So what happened now? Actually, here Alauddin Khalji was controlled the prices in Delhi, and even the prices were carefully surveyed by the officers, and even those who did not sell their goods or things for the prescribed rates, so they were also punished. But Muhammad Tughlaq, so he was also paid his soldiers in the cash salaries, but instead of controlling prices, he used token currency, somewhat like present day paper currency. How was the token currency? What we are using in the present day, like the paper currency, that is in the same the paper currency, but that made out of cheap metals. The token currency was made up of cheap metals, not gold and silver, only cheap metals. So people in the 14th century did not trust these coins because those coins were, the token coins were made up of cheap metals. So that's what. So during the time, they did not trust these coins. So they were very smart. So they saved their gold and silver coins. The merchants and the others, so they were saved. They were saved their gold and silver coins and paid all their taxes to the states with the token currency only. The same they were. So they were paid their taxes to the state with this the token currency only. So this cheap currency could also be counterfeited easily. This cheap currency could also be counterfeited easily. ಅದನ್ನ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಯಾರು ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಅದನ್ನ ನಕಲು ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಹಾಕಬಹುದಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. So he was taken like this action. And Alauddin Khilji, so he was actually, oh, compared to all this, he was taken as some of the good administrative measures. So Alauddin's administrative measures were quite successful, and chroniclers praised his reign for its cheap prices and efficient supplies of goods in the market. He successfully withstood the threat of Mongol invasions. He was successfully threat of Mongol invasions. ಸೊ ಮಂಗೋಲರ ದಾಳಿಯನ್ನ ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ತಡೆಯಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನು ಕೈಗೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ Muhammad Tughlaq's administrative measures? So while the Alauddin's administrative measures were quite successful and praised by the chroniclers, now here Muhammad Tughlaq's administrative measures were a failure because of the different measures. His campaign into Kashmir was a disaster. He then gave up his plans to invade Transylvania and disbanded his large army. So meanwhile, what happened? His administrative measures created a complications. The shifting of people to Daulatabad. Again, they were resented from Daulatabad to Delhi only, and the raising of taxes and famine in the Ganga Yamuna belt that led to widespread rebellion also. And finally, the token currency had to be recalled. Once again, what happened? Whatever it was introduced, the token currency, so it was taken back. It had to be recalled. So that's what, dear students, in Indian history, especially in the Delhi Sultan's history, so Muhammad bin Tughlaq ನನ್ನ ಹುಚ್ಚು ದೊರೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. He was the king was a man. Understood. So now after comparison, Alauddin Khalji and then Muhammad bin Tughlaq, then we can come to conclude and then we can say, so compared to Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the Alauddin administrative measures are so better and quite successful. So, in this list of Muhammad Tughlaq's failures, we sometimes forget that for the first time in the history of the Sultanate, a Delhi Sultan planned a campaign to capture Mongol territory. Planned to capture Mongol territory, unlike Alauddin's defensive measures. See, this is what one thing, the plus. So, was planned to capture Mongol territory. Muhammad Tughlaq's measures were conceived as a part of a military offensive against the Mongols. Now, let us discuss about the Sultanate in the 15th and 16th century. The Sultanate in the 15th and 16th century. I hope dear students you may understood about so the administrative measures. So how taken by Alauddin Khilji and how he was became a quite successful in that and how Muhammad bin Tughlaq because of his administrative measures he was a failure completely. Now the Sultanate in the 15th and 16th century. See, already I explained that in the first period only, I mean the class only, about the period of the different dynasties. See, after the Tughlaqs, the Sayyids, the Lodi dynasties ruled from Delhi and Agra until 1526. By then, Jaunpur, Bengal, Malwa, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and the entire South India had independent rulers who established flourishing states and prosperous capitals. So this was also period which saw the emergence of new ruling groups like the Afghans and the Rajputs also. So some of the states established in these periods were small but powerful and extremely well administered. For example, Sher Shah Suri. Sher Shah Suri was ruled 1542 1542. See, Sher Shah Suri started his career as the manager of a small territory for his uncle in Bihar and eventually challenged and defeated the Mughal Emperor Humayun. So, how many times? So, he was successfully defeated the Mughal Empire Humayun. Even so, the two wars 1915, I saw 1930 and 14 and once again 1555 and 1566. So in these two wars, the Mughal Emperor Humayun he was defeated by Sher Shah. Getting now. See, Sher Shah captured Delhi and established his own dynasty. So although this we knows that this used to call as Suri dynasty. It's called Suri dynasty. So this dynasty was ruled only 15 years. This dynasty ruled only 15 years. Okay, so not more than 15 years, 1542, 1555. It introduced an administration that borrowed elements from Alauddin Khalji and made them more efficient. So it was followed the same Alauddin Khalji's administrative measures. Sher Shah's administration became the model followed by the great emperor Akbar. So was ruled Delhi in 1556 to 1605. So Alauddin Khalji, actually the administrative measures was followed by the Sher Shah Suri and the same. So whatever Sher Shah administration system, what it was followed, the model it was followed by the great Mughal emperor Akbar. So was ruled Delhi in 1556 to 1605. When he consolidated the Mughal empire, it was followed the same way, students. Got it now? So it is about the Sultanate in the 15th and 16th century. So what happened in between? So after Tughlaq dynasty, followed by the Sayyid and Lodi. So what happened? So the Sher Shah Sur, he was established the Suri dynasty only for 15 years, and he was defeated twice. Umayyad was the king of the Mughal dynasty. Understood now? Then afterwards, so the same administrative system was followed by the great king Akbar also. Got it, dear students? So it is all about the Delhi Sultans. I hope, dear students, you all of you understood this chapter. Even if you are not understanding or if you are in confusion regarding this chapter, so you are very free to call and then try to clear your doubts. So I would like to tell during this time one thing. So not yet I received a single call from anybody, sir. We may not understanding this chapter or this concept. So one thing that shows that clearly, maybe you are studying, maybe you are understanding, or you are not studying and you are not at all understanding. So that's what you are not raising any questions. So please, dear students, please ask questions, call me, and try to clear your doubt. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.